It was in late December of my 21st year, when I found my pockets bare enough to once more seek employ by way of the Atlantic Ocean, doing whatever simple work a man with high spirits and low ambition could provide a ship's captain. This expedition would reveal itself to be a cursed endeavor from the first breath, and soon would find ourselves adrift in near frozen waters, a sea of fog engulfing our entire world. For days that limped along endlessly, we struggled to ease the boredom by staring off into the mist, straining our eyes for the slightest break in the white hell stretching before us. On what could have been the 10,000th day, we saw it at last, the slightest of shimmers, dead ahead, and it was growing larger, brighter, and we were headed straight for that horrible, beautiful light, and in our madness we thanked God for delivering us into His grace. Little did my crewmates suspect we had been delivered instead to the gaping maw of the manscape. When the light that had overtaken us subsided, we opened our eyes to sight ever more miraculous: dry land. We set sail for the island now before us, not far from swimming distance away, too desperate for the feel of grass beneath our feet to notice how strangely red the skies now looked, how still the water seemed despite our steady progress through it. Once we reached land, the miracles did not cease. Littered on the grass were countless wooden crates, filled with the most strange and miraculous wares we had ever laid eyes upon. Whether these belonged to another doomed crew or to the island itself, I will never know. But I am resolute in my certainty that the items were not of this age, or perhaps even this sphere of the cosmos. First, there were the boxer briefs, black as night and as comfortable as a glove, gently holding the curve of our nethers in ways the lovers we had left at home never could. Then there were the crates marked Crop Preserver, which contained wonderful ointments which cured us of the chafing that had long been a sailor's greatest misery. Then there were the twin oddities that were the Weed Whacker and Lawn Mower, vibrating wands which effortlessly removed the hair from our noses and unmentionables, respectively. And most curious of all were the shirts, all emblazoned with a single, enigmatic word: Manscaped. By the time anyone had noticed the ship had vanished, our hair had already begun to grow at a rate we, in another life, would have found troubling. But the compulsion to shave, to style, to clothe oneself in form-fitting underwear, it conquered our minds in a bloodless coup, and all it asked in return for its gifts was that we stay in this manscape forever, shaving forever, a crew of stylish men trapped in a realm of perpetual grooming. I share this story not as a warning, but as an act of obedience to a new God I both fear and love, the one who has manscaped my soul and speaks now, through me, to deliver a message to those who seek its bounties. Venture to manscaped.com and use offer code BOXOFFICEPULP, all one word, to get 20% off your order plus free shipping. I will repeat this once more: manscaped.com, offer code BOXOFFICEPULP. Your balls will thank you.
Here's Johnny.
I'll be back.
And you will know my name is the Lord.
I'm walking here! I'm walking here!
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
Groovy.
Welcome to Box Office Pulp, your one-stop podcast for movies, madness, and moxie. I'm Mike, as always, joined by my co-host, Jamie, who isn't going to say anything because we have more important guests joining us, which are Darren and Jeff Allen GEARE, the GEARE brothers.
Hey, guys.
Hey.
Listeners of the podcast know I recently reviewed a little movie called The Retaliators, and quite taken with it. From that, well, somehow I didn't piss off the screenwriters. So
I'm still waiting for that, by the way, where we get like a cease and desist letter.
It's going to happen.
And it's going to be on like the Pumpkin Carver too, like one of the nothing movies we talked about.
You're going to just show up to the cease and desist on the door.
What was that pumpkin movie we just did?
Oh, Pumpkin Hole. That ended up actually being good, and we felt bad that we threw it on to make fun of it.
Okay, what the hell is Pumpkin Hole? I need to know right now.
Okay,
I can tell you all about
Pumpkin Hole is odd. Okay, you remember The Machinist?
Yes.
It's The Machinist, but with a ghostly pumpkin. It's actually pretty good. It's kind of an interesting, like, deep psychological, like, head trip sort of movie.
So it's kind of like going down the pumpkin hole. That's where they get the name.
I don't know how that director thought that was a good title.
I have never seen a movie killed by its choice of iconography faster. It made a fun Halloween party movie.
I bet.
Yeah, that's cool.
It has like these Lynchian interludes, but they don't really work in the same way Lynch goes for. So there's no pumpkin hole in the movie, from what I remember.
Well,
I guess
he
does have a hole that involves a pumpkin, so I guess that was it.
God, it is such a pleasure to have you guys in the show, because I watched Retaliators for the first time a couple of days ago, and I have not been able to get it out of my head.
Nice.
That's great, man.
Love hearing that.
Yeah. What did you like about it? No, I'm just
The giant spotlight suddenly comes down.
Right now. You're going to get the bad stuff if we go too deep.
Yeah, Jamie, she can be quite bitchy.
Yeah, I know it's kind of an obvious thing to say, but the clashing of tones and the attempts at doing multiple different types of genre movie at once. My favorite types of genre movies are gumbos, where they just try to throw everything in there, and the ones that can pull it off are very, very special, and you guys were definitely able to pull it off with that screenplay.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, that means a lot. Man.
It means a lot, yeah, because we were, it was definitely one of those things, when we were in the screening room in post, and it was the first time we had seen it all finally put together. We had the pleasure of getting to sit in on the editing, and so we finally was done, and then we sat down and watched it, and we knew we were submitting to festivals really soon. And it ended, and we just went, oh my gosh, is anybody going to get this or get on the ride or like the ride? Like, it was just because it just felt, we were excited about it, but we knew it was kind of taking some risks. And so nobody was more shocked than we were that just the reception went as well as it did.
Yeah, I've never had the pleasure of going to a festival, but when I imagine in my head like what the ideal experience would be, it's a movie like yours, just going in blind to something that absolutely just flips me upside down.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah, the first festival we went to was Fright Fest in London, and because this was towards the end of 21, and this was when travel was just starting to go, and because of the way the quarantining was working, it was really strict back then with travel, so we ended up not being able to go, which was a bummer. So we sort of were waiting on pins and needles, like, how did it go? And the head of the festival contacted us and said, well, you have the crowd pleaser of Fright Fest, and we went, "Oh, really?"
Wow.
And they went, and again, this is when it had never played in front of an audience. And he was like, "You guys, the third act," he goes, "the place was turned into just a ruckus. People were screaming, people were yelling and laughing and cheering." And he recorded a little bit of it and sent it to us. And watching that, like, we just couldn't believe it. We were just going, "Oh my God," like, it just really connected. So yeah, well, then we finally got to see it at the Hollywood Chinese for Screamfest. We got to open Screamfest, and it was an unbelievable experience. It was it played really well with an audience.
It must be pretty amazing to like have the feeling of all this like goodwill towards it after the road the movie kind of went down to be made, and after the script, because it was on the blacklist, wasn't it? Didn't you make a blacklist?
Yeah, it did. That's where it started, and it was such a weird combination of things because we put it on the blacklist. We again, this was sort of the beginning of our truly just being humbled by, like, wow, what the heck? Like, we just started getting great coverage right away. Then we ended up on their top list, and then we started getting interest right away within weeks of it going on there. And so the process to get the movie made ended up being ridiculously fast, from the script being finished to putting it on the blacklist to going into selling it and then going into production was all under a year. So in movie time, that's obviously like just beyond ridiculously fast. But then we started shooting. We started shooting. We had to work around the band's schedules, so it made for a little bit of a hectic scheduling to begin with, and then COVID hit right as we were in full swing with our shoot, and so it shut us down. And this is when the world shut down. This was March of 2020, and it just ended up creating sort of an endless amount of obstacles and changes and adapting. And it went on for obviously as long as all of that initial COVID craziness was going on all through that. So yeah, it was it's beyond gratifying to have just to have had a conclusion where we finished it, where we were able to release it. And yeah, the fact that it's connecting with people is honestly, we're still shocked by it, and it's still not hitting us really. Like it's very gratifying.
Yeah. Speaking of like making a movie with COVID, it just makes me laugh still. Like all these big studios like freaked out trying to figure out how to continue to make movies in the time of COVID, but like any low budget guerrilla style filmmaker just went, damn it, we know how. We've been training for this our entire lives.
Yeah, we don't need to make $2 billion to break even. It took some of the pressure off.
So yeah, I mean, people connecting with it has been pretty clear, and I'm kind of like fascinated by that, because the story you tell with the Retaliators, everyone kind of goes in expecting like this real grindhouse experience, and there is that, but you end up like, before you get to the grindhouse experience, I think like audiences are finding they're really being hit in like this emotional spot they really weren't prepared for. And in my original review, and by the way, folks listening, spoilers all over this fucking thing. So just go back, listen to my review, watch it on VOD, pre-order the Blu-ray out on February 7th. I likened it to The Crow, and specifically the actual the comic, because in the comic, James O'Barr, that was personal pain put in ink. Is what that was. And the Retaliators felt like that. Like even before I knew there was any kind of real true life story attached to the making of it, from where you wrote it from, I could feel there was something there. especially with the movie ending up in a place that's not even really gray. Like it's even hard to completely describe where Bishop ends up as a character, but it's very different than what you'd expect, and it's clearly from a place of someone writing, working through pain in some way.
Mm, mm. That's cool. It's interesting you bring up The Crow too, because Michael Lombardi connecting to the film very early on, and the credit really goes to him in getting the film made, as the producer, as one of the directors, as obviously the guy that carries the film in his performance. But he was he really connected with the script in a really deep way. And one of the movies he brought up was The Crow. Like, he got that from just the script. Yeah, he just saw pieces of it, because we're true dyed in the wool, just genre fans and movie nerds, and we've been that way our whole life. And it's, we talk in movies, we just are constantly watching movies, and we've kind of always been that way. So it's always hard when people go, well, what are your what were your influences? It's like, well, if you're really paying attention, you probably would see many because we have a lot of different ones, and we love to pay homage. We love to some are obvious, like The Evil Dead was an obvious one in this, but there's others that are more subtle, and The Crow it was one of those, and Michael did pick up on that right away. So it's interesting that you pick up on that.
And Lombardi himself, I mean, like the passion he clearly has for the picture, like comes through in his performance. And if I remember, and he did actually end up kind of co-directing some scenes because of COVID, what I understand. Yeah.
Well, what's so crazy is, not only did he end up directing, I think what ended up on screen about 20 minutes or so of the film.
Wow.
So a significant amount. And I'll tell you, some of the most beautiful, well-composed sequences he directed. So yeah, he really, the guy's passion was truly limitless, and just fearless, through everything. And proud to say, safe record, nobody got sick on set. Nobody, no terrible health incidents or anything like that. But we just had to navigate through, and he had to really persevere through, us getting shut down and cast members dropping out at the last second, and other ones getting, that we would have to adjust scenes based on literally the last second. It would be, okay, well, we don't have X, but now we have Y, but you still need to figure out how to, tell the story and connect this dot. And it was crazy.
What kind of like changed the most because of COVID, like story or script wise?
Nothing, this is the weird thing. As many obstacles as there were, what we did was took a really rough situation and then kind of squeezed what we did was, in the moment, we didn't ever stop and consider what we were having to deal with. We just sort of went day by day. And when we would have a big setback, we always took the opportunity to go, okay, well, you know what? We have a breath here. So what can we do to make this better? What can we do to make this next, when we finally are able to shoot this, when we're finally able to figure this out, how do we get this to the next level? How do we top what we wanted to do? So, things that what we were so shocked at was that the spine of the movie, the kind of connecting of the dots, the journey, it was all there. The opening with the those aren't zombies, to connecting to later, all of the beats were there. We just sort of, because of the craziness, ended up kind of improving on certain scenes. Like, we ended up in a very weird way benefiting. It was through a lot of blood and sweat, but we did end up sort of just maximizing the time. We just were resourceful, okay, well, we got to shut down here. We got to go here. What can we do there? That's sort of telling the same story, but we have to shift it a little bit. So it's weird. It's not like anything, none of the fundamentals change, if that makes sense. But, the location would have to be changed and we would have to adjust it. It'd be things like that. But I mean, that's any movie, certainly. Yeah. But this was just obviously because of the COVID factor, it made it all that much more difficult, so sort of that on steroids.
Well, I feel like you guys had kind of a happy accident with this production, in that your movie has one of the few scripts tackled by multiple directors that I think actually kind of benefits from having so many different visions at once. Yeah. Like, one of my favorite things about the movie is that the further Bishop goes down like this dark rabbit hole, the more over the top and surreal things seem, not just in the content, but also just in the visuals and the tone of the movie. Like, it really feels like you're shifting into different levels, into different worlds. And I think that's kind of benefited from multiple directors. And I'm very curious, was that always a part of the script, the idea that these different parts of the movie would feel so different?
Yeah. We always, we really love movies that take what we call hard turns, or, like Hostel is a good example. Audition's another great example. And actually, Auditions might be more apt because in Audition, when you start getting past that midway point, more towards the third act, it gets really surreal, in the way that's shot and everything. And so yeah, I think that's we definitely that aesthetic was built into the cake of the script. We always wanted to do that. In fact, that was the hardest thing to sell people on. Not Michael, but other producers and directors that had come on, was sort of like how to communicate that vision, because it is a hard sell. I mean, the safer way to make a picture is just to stick to one general tone and work within those boundaries, because it's a well-worn path and it works. So when you're trying something a little newer, it's not so well worn, people get nervous, and understandably so. But we were so blessed to have, not just Michael believing in it, but Alan Kovac, who was another, he was like sort of the big dog, producer of this whole thing. He runs Better Noise Music. So we were just really lucky to have that. Have them having our backs as we tried to push the vision to make sure that was the film that came out.
Yeah, many people that would read the script would say, I love it, but let's just do this as a thriller. Like, we're starting kind of in this mystery thriller. Let's just do the whole thing like that. It's going to just be too strange to go in that other direction. Or we would get the flip side, which was, well, look, let's just go full horror the whole time, and let's make the subhumans supernatural and figure out a way to make it supernatural. And we're just sitting there going, no, that's the whole point. The whole point is, you take the grindhouse out of it if you do that. You take that fun.
With like a funkiness.
Jeff and I are, we're huge, we're huge 70s exploitation, and then we love all the canon, 80s canon films, and it's like there's a level of sort of subversiveness and ridiculousness that sort of needed to kind of come through, and for us that was kind of the catharsis. Like, we really needed that sort of explosion in the third act. So it was hard, a lot of people. It was just shocking how much internal struggle there was to kind of follow it through, because it is a little nerve-wracking. And again, that was why sort of when we were in the theater kind of watching it early on, we just kind of went, okay, we fought really hard and pretty much won most of the battles other than what COVID prevented. So what do we have? Shit, it's like, be careful what you wish for kind of thing. Cause now we're like, oh God, if this doesn't land, but even then, like, we really were sort of at peace going, you know what, we get it, and if only a couple people connect, hey, then those are cool people, and that's awesome. And I mean, we truly did go into it pretty low expectations, honestly, because we just didn't know what to expect.
I imagine it must have been very tempting to just sit those people down with a VHS of From Dusk Till Dawn and say, look, it works.
Yes.
It's possible.
Yeah.
No, totally.
From Dusk Till Dawn is one of the, I saw that in the theater, and I'll never forget that experience. And that was actually one of the examples we did use many times, because there is certainly a, there's always a little Tarantino influence in what we do, because we're just, big fans from back in the day. It's just in the DNA with us. And
I also think, like, a lot, I remember thinking back to it now, a lot of pushback, because Dust to Dawn was brought up, but the argument would always be like, okay, but that's Quentin Tarantino. And I just felt like, well, he's not
always so close-minded.
But he's not the only person who can write a story, maybe that good, yes, but in that vein, though, in that, with that sort of like general aesthetic in mind. And I do remember that.
Well, that's just what we're what we're just really fans of. I feel like for us, I don't know about other people, just for us, quote unquote, twist movies, where movies end with a twist. Like, I just, other than very, very rare examples,
really rare.
Jeff and I are very aligned on this, is I just always feel like, it's a cheat. It feels like the movie you were just watching is now an entirely different movie than what you thought you were watching.
Well, the one you enjoyed.
And the one you enjoy. And then also you're sort of left with, a lot of times there isn't a rewatch value, because that when you go to we're big rewatchers of film, and when there's a twist that undoes everything you just watched, then when you're rewatching it, sometimes it can be interesting, but sometimes it's like, well, I already know this is just kind of not, this is all a big look at the birdie fake out.
Right.
And it's not about the crafting of the film. So for us, it is about those hard turns. We like movies that unfold, like that kind of take their time and just continually surprise you. Kind of like a roller coaster.
Yeah.
Like, where's it going? Where's it turning? Just that kind of thing,
Yeah, and I think there really is wisdom to the adage of, like, as a filmmaker, especially when you're making your first film, is you want to tell the story that's in your heart. Something that really means something to you as a lover of film. And I really felt like that's what we got to do with Retaliators, was end up with a film that's just like the kind of films we'd love to watch and talk about. Obviously not every single film we love to watch and talk about, but certainly the ones that are the most fun for us to watch and talk about, which are, Bronson films, from, the canon, like 10 to Midnight or something like that. So yeah, we're really lucky.
I do think so much of like Death Wish, and the idea of like this normal guy who is just like slowly transformed by just pain and revenge. And but Bishop is even like that's why I like the like changing tones, because Bishop, like, he believes his life is a Lifetime movie practically. Like, that's kind of like how he chooses to live his life.
Totally. All Stepfather.
And then he like enters this. Like, I love how the movie changes when like the bikers show up, because it suddenly enters like this drive-in grindhouse, like gritty Gonzo movie, and then Bishop ends up in Mandy, essentially, like by the end of it.
Same universe.
And just this concept of like him going through what is essentially like grief counseling meets the harrowing of hell.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, and just seeing like this normal guy get twisted up in this, and I love one of like a little illusion I love, and why Retaliators is actually really rewatchable too, is because you get to pick up on more just little hidden allegories and pieces of like, it can get a little like film analysis porn, which I really like. That's like cool. He's talking about how he's always afraid to like get a motorcycle, but he pushes it off because like he's thinking about it being practical. He's only doing it
because of practicality, not because he's afraid or anything like that. And of course, by the end, he's put into a survival situation where he has to use a motorcycle in an actual practical way at both his transportation and to defend himself,
Right.
using it actually as a weapon. And that, I love that scene. That's pure, beautiful splatterpunk. But but I love that, like, that it does feel like he's in hell. Like, like these things are being used against him. Like his beliefs or how he's hidden behind certain beliefs. Yeah. Is something being twisted and thrown back in his face.
Yeah, exactly. I love the way that you put that. You know, yeah, he has to really use. He lives his life not having to sort of go there at all, and then finally he's put in a position where he can't just say Merry Christmas and walk away from the tree lot kind of deal. Right. You know, it's like he has to actually pick up the fucking machete and go to town. You know.
Well, that was our when we were originally coming up with the concept. And because it really built around this idea of what if there was, this sort of service that catered to family members of crime victims and offered a minute alone, right? And we started kind of toying with that. And what just really quickly became the obvious kind of like, well, this would make the best drama would be, let's not take a cynical, jaded character, and somebody who, let's take an actual, and nobody with demons in their closet, like a real throwback Frank Capra, Jimmy Stewart-esque throwback good guy, where it's like,
track him through hell.
And it was just like sort of the fun of going, okay, let's just, like a true kind of like an earnest, Tom Hanks, kind of guy, where it's like, you just know he's a good person. There's a lot of good, and he sort of lives in this sheltered kind of world, and he's very kind of insulated and protected, and he's this man of the community. And what's dragged him through that temptation, and what would that how the drama that could come from that just was a lot of fun. And then Jed was kind of born out of going, let's create a mirror, let's take another guy, different kind of good guy, but also a good guy, good principled, good human, and take him through what would happen if you go another direction. And it was just fun. We very purposefully from the beginning really committed ourselves to saying, we're not going to judge either. We're not going to telegraph thoughts on either or values on either. We're just going to just sort of, let's create these characters and this sort of mirror and play it out. And we really tried to, we definitely thought, like, if the movie ends and anyone went, boy, Jed's just a monster, then we didn't really do our job, because we really wanted people to struggle with Jed and go, oh, geez,
or at least give maybe he's a monster, but
right, because certainly he did very monstrous.
Either way you want it.
There's no question he kind of became what he despised, of course, but we at least wanted there to be a sort of a kind of a thought pattern where you could kind of go down and connect those dots and say, boy, would I go there? And that's why we thought it was kind of fun to watch Bishop go all the way to the line and then look at, sorry, spoiler alert, but go to that line and then say, well, no, I want to pull back. And then, of course, it's got to be too late, right? Because that makes it juicy.
Yeah, now you have to actually escape hell.
You get all the props in the world, by the way, for respecting the audience's intelligence enough to go, well, he's not going to let him leave now.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. That was for us. That part of the movie is just again, I said juicy. I just love that.
Well,
you know,
yeah, because Jed kind of becomes the villain, right? There,
yeah.
You know.
Yeah, that line, "Only complicit men take secrets to the grave." If there's a line of the film, it's that.
Yeah.
No, it really
Thank
sums
you.
up the whole the whole film.
Yeah,
right?
that was that was one we were proud of. That was one we went, ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Yeah,
That's for the poster.
And to have Mark Menchaca, like when we write, we take on voices. We look ridiculous. We act out the script like over and over again to get the dialogue kind of ironed out. And, you know, when you're not hearing it out loud, dialogue can look really good. And then when you say it, you go, oh boy, that's really, that's terrible, or that doesn't work. And so the character of Jed was funny because, and I don't remember who always played him. We would switch off.
Yeah.
But that was the voice we did, was Mark Menchaca. So when we heard him speak the first time as Jed, it was like chills. I mean, it was like, wow. I mean, I got to give huge credit to his delivery there too.
Oh yeah.
And there's something about his performance that like nearly brings a tear to your eye. Is it so?
There is that pain.
Again, spoiler, but when he meets his fate in the movie, it still gets me every time. There's something, and there's also something really sweet that Bishop doesn't hold it against him, and that he's comforting him. That was just like one of those proud moments, because I go, yeah, you know, it's such a better choice, because it's obviously would have been very easy for Bishop to be pretty pissed off at that point with what he had gotten him into, but it just sort of showed Bishop's character, and then you kind of see that sadness in Jed, that sort of, there was a good man under there, you know?
Yeah. It's almost like he wants to say, I know what this looks like. I know what this is, what I'm doing. I just don't care. And that's so sad.
Yeah. It is.
And like what I was really taken with when just that entire plot is unveiled and you go, holy shit, this movie's really going some places, was, you know, going back to like Bishop talking about movies and stuff earlier. It's really playing the idea of fantasy violence versus reality violence. Like you can have all these dark thoughts. You can want to do these things. Okay, here's a weapon in your hand. Do it. And that is completely different. So what I love actually about how violent that third act is, because not only is it playing up like that, just like fun grindhouse splatterpunk kind of feeling, it's also showing, no, this is actually how horrible this violence is. Like it's not sanitized.
Right. Well, and if you look at Bishop through that whole third act, he is freaking out at all of it. You know,
he's not relishing it like hell.
He's not enjoying it.
You know,
he's and you know what?
He doesn't get turned into like a sadist.
Right. Well, and one of the things that very few people pick up on, I mean, and it's pretty subtle. You'd have to be looking at the movie pretty close, but we always kind of get a chuckle when people refer to and sometimes it's in reviews and comments and stuff. It always kind of makes us chuckle when people sort of say avenging pastor, or we watch this guy end up on this vengeful whatever, because what we very purposefully, talked out, wrote out, and I feel like it was executed. If you really watch, everything in the third act is all based on survival. He is not out seeking to kill. He is out trying to escape, and he is essentially defending himself as all of these people are encroaching on him all the way, even because we karmically wanted him to get to have Ram Katie at the end. I mean, we knew that. When we were going through, we were just like, okay, we've got to have him like go through all of this hell, and we've got to give him finally at the very end. He's got to have it. But even that, we very purposefully wanted. He went over to help the elderly couple getting attacked. He didn't go over to start a fight. He didn't go over to...
Yeah, he didn't just see Ram Katie out in the woods by himself.
Right.
It was like, you know what, this is my chance. I'm going to go.
You're right.
Kill him.
He was there, and again through that whole fight sequence through the house and into the barn and everything else, he all the way to the eyeball. It is all to survive, and yeah, you can maybe split hairs with a couple of the moments, but that was very much an intentional thing. We really, because we knew how cartoonish the third act was going to be, but we really wanted to strike a little bit of a balance there where it was like, okay, let's not have him just like kind of like what you said, like he doesn't turn into Rambo at the end or the Terminator. That's not who he is. You know, it's really truly more John McClane.
Yeah.
Which is to bring it back to the original action hero reference in the film with Die Hard, because he really because when you know, John McClane essentially is mostly, I mean, I've seen Die Hard so many times, but I mean, he's mostly just trying to survive. You know, he's pretty much gone through hell, and he's a cop, so it's a little different. He's a little more savvy in protecting himself, but yeah.
Yeah, I love how even Bishop's like final moment of triumph in that fight is still an act of naked desperation, where he's not thinking, at last, I'm going to kill this demon that's destroyed my life. He's just thinking, I have a daughter I have to get home to. It's Christmas.
Yeah.
This is not happening on Christmas.
Totally. And that's that Frank Capra-esque sort of thing that always stayed with him. Well, that's the guy comforting Jed. You know, it was sort of fun to keep him that way. And that's what Lombardi was just so able to nail that, you know, and then also be able to cross over into the action stuff.
Yeah,
we were there watching it in person, and it was just, it was unbelievable. You could just see it on the set without even looking in at the dailies or whatever. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, I didn't think about it until now, but the ending of that movie is essentially if Jimmy Stewart used Zuzu's pedals to kill Mr. Potter at the end of It's a Wonderful Life. Close to the eye.
You're totally right. Yeah, totally.
Speaking of that final fight, I have been wanting to ask this all week. Was it you guys or the directors who came up with the gag of hitting somebody in the shoulder with a hot frying pan and then them pulling back and the flesh coming off? Because I've never seen that.
That was written in. That was written in.
That was so good.
That was so cool.
Yeah, and that fight sequence, that was one of the location changes, and that was one of the examples where we went, okay, how do we make this better? So what was fun about that sequence was we knew the spots we wanted to hit, but we had to work it all out. And so we would write and then show the pages to Michael. And we also were working with our editor at that point too. So it was great. Yeah. That whole fight sequence was, we worked, and a huge credit to Michael and the cast and our production, our stunt coordinators. They really put the time in to rehearse and work through those gags, and just makes such a difference. It's such a way to get more production value when you have good fights in a movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just, it's such a...
You don't want to cheap out on fight scenes, because that just makes it seem so amateurish.
But yeah, so I don't remember who thought of the gag, but it was written in.
Well-directed fight scenes too. I love that house fight. Like, once again, just nice to see a fight where there's geography and
people are touching the environment. They're not just floating around a space. Which isn't even a green screen thing. Movies shot on sets still have a lot of people just kind of going through choreography as if they're just in any number of locations.
Yeah. Or like fast cuts.
Well,
you can barely see what's going on.
Well, and that's what was cool too about getting to work this stuff out when we were mid-production, because when we originally had written the scene, it was a imagined situation in our head. When we got to write this, we had that set. We had those locations. We had the geography. And so that made it really cool, because then we got to literally look at the blueprint and go, okay, let's start outside, have him go through the window. He's now, and work with this environment. So it's that collaborative experience of and it was one of those examples where we got to really take everything to kind of the next level.
And it's such great imagery, because it's the imagery of what this fight is, like what it represents, these two characters going from like this very like hellish landscape and then spilling into this domestic Christmas decorated like family space and completely tearing it apart. Like it's really symbolic of like what like revenge is to the movie.
That's cool. Yeah, it is fun to get to watch those. To see, that part of the film, audience hasn't seen Ram Katie in a long time, and we sort of cheated away when they attack him in the cage, and then everything turns into all that chaos. We don't know where his fate went, and so seeing him in that environment with the old couple, I always love that contrast. It's like, it just feels very scary all of a sudden. Right? It's like, oh, geez.
Yeah.
You did a really good job of burying that too. I gasped when the camera pans up and it's him. It's like, oh, we're still in this movie.
That's so good to hear, because every time it comes up, because, when you've seen a million edits and everything, you're just like, I know it's there. I really hope this is a surprise for the audience.
Yeah, that was another one. I don't remember whose idea it was to have it trick the audience into thinking it's Bishop shuffling through the car. But I remember thinking, if we could pull that off, it would be so great, because there's no reason for the audience at that point not to think it's Bishop. And I feel like it was pulled off really, really well. And when his face comes up, it's just the lighting and the look on his face. It was just, it's great.
I'm sure the audience thought it was either Bishop or Wolverine searching for clothes after leaving Repenix.
I have said for a long time Lombardi would make a good Wolverine.
Wow.
Hell yeah.
And tell me that isn't just a Wolverine versus Sabretooth fight.
We should start like
that's a good he'd love to hear that campaign.
I think it could work. I think it could work. But what's like what I also love about that is like, you do kind of forget that he's kind of the final villain. So you've like, from a writing standpoint, what you guys did such a good job of is you allowed the movie to go batshit crazy, like just get complete chaos, and then you cinched it back up to like its emotional center with a fight.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, that's boy. I'm so glad you appreciated that and see that, and that was that. We really, that's part of why we fought so hard for the batshit portion, because we kind of had faith that if we go there, if we really let this kind of catharsis happen with Bishop and take him all the way to these sort of the extremes of having to sort of, like you were saying, sort of escape that seventh ring of hell, like get out, that if we then bring it back to that sort of, now we're in a classical, this is the hero and villain face to face. It's right out of any, in any sort of classical structure. And I just felt like it would feel better and feel a little, they would resonate a little different to have it go away and then come back, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And having like the evil vanquish, but it having nothing to do with vengeance or fulfilling anything, and Lombardi plays it perfectly in that moment of like watching him die. Just, you can tell that's not the meaning behind this, and it's just such a great wrap up. And what is, like, obviously the movie kind of ends on a very like gray, you decide kind of area with Bishop. And what's your like overall take of like what, like where he's ended up?
Well, it's really funny. So the ending is, for me, was 100% a nod to Superman 2. And
Fantastic.
when I was a kid, and when I saw Superman 2, and it is hard for people to understand, like when we're so immersed in superhero culture today, and in the 80s, you didn't have, Superman was a whole new thing, and we were still a few years away from Batman, and obviously that's, a huge shift, came after Batman, up until today, but, Superman was kind of everything, especially from being a little obsessed with film right away. So Superman was everything. And when he gave up his powers to marry Lois Lane, and as a kid, watching him go into that bar and get punched in the face by that bully, that like rocked me as a kid. Like I just remember watching it and being like, wow, Superman's bleeding his nose. And it had this really like profound, like it really bummed me out as a kid. And what I love about, the movie is the movie ends. You don't need that scene at the end. You don't need it plot wise. The movie is essentially wrapped up, but the fact that Superman is sort of this really benevolent character. He's this guy that really doesn't have like a mean bone in his body or a vindictive, he's just sort of this very, again, kind of like that Jimmy Stewart good guy. When you think of Clark Kent, you think of Superman. And for him to walk into the bar and then basically knock the guy out, and have that last laugh, like that was a thrill that like I just never ever forgot that as a kid. Like that just completely. So that's entirely what that ending was meant to be. It was like let's not worry about, because we knew it had contradictory
or tension. Maybe there would be a little bit of tension in like where people thought that Bishop might have landed.
Right. Like where did he land? Like
but it also just felt right.
It just felt that's that subversiveness that we love, and that sort of that's the punk rock to it that we just kind of had to have. Like we see him roughed up at the tree lot. He does the total right thing. And then at the end, now he's got the bully and he's going to knock him out. And it was sort of that. It really was totally Superman 2 inspired. And here's what's funny. The only person, so we had the absolute thrill to screen this movie for Scott Spiegel. And we got to go to Scott Spiegel's home and screen this. What stage was this when we?
This was after
Fright Fest. Was this right after Fright Fest?
I think so. Yeah.
So I don't think it had gone totally crazy yet in the film festival circuit, but I think it was just starting to. We knew we had Skylar Stone, the guy who gets punched out at the end. He was in Hostel 3, which Scott Spiegel directed, and he obviously produced all the Hostels. And because he wrote Evil Dead 2, we were just beyond excited to show him the movie. But then we were also a little nervous about it too, because Evil Dead was one of those, like, again, there's a couple homages that are totally on the nose, and it's like it's very, very on the nose Evil Dead sort of references. But anyway, we got to sit Scott. He's an amazing guy, sweetheart of a guy. We screened the movie with him. He was hilarious because he would talk out loud throughout the whole movie, so you would hear his thoughts out loud. So it was very cool, actually, because we would, he would kind of he was watching it as a writer and as a director, so he'd go, oh yeah, oh, okay, I see what you did there. And he would just sort of kind of talk, and it was the funnest experience. And then when it got to the Evil Dead part, he was. It was the sweetest thing. He was jumping up. He was yelling. He was going, "Oh my God! Look, he looks like Ash! Whoa, he looks just like Ash! Look at that! Holy shit!" No, he wasn't saying Ash. He was saying Bruce.
Yeah, he said Bruce.
He was like,
"That's so adorable."
It was the most adorable thing ever, and he really is an adorable human. Like, he was just the nicest fucking guy on the planet. But what was great, the whole point to this, we get to the end, and when he knocks him out, he goes, "Oh, Superman 2! Superman 2!"
Oh my
and I go,
God.
I mean, my mouth hit the floor. I went, "Holy shit, Scott! Are you really? I can't believe you just said that." And him, he's at such another level. He's like, "Oh yeah. No, I know. What was his name? I forget the guy's. He has a funny name too, something Pepper or something." He's like, "Oh, his name is Pepper Martin." I knew Pepper Martin. He was he is truly at that Tarantino level of like just references and people he's met. And so anyway, yeah, that was very beyond thrill to have him pick that up. I couldn't believe it.
I can't wait to rewatch the movie and have Superman 2 in my head during that. It's going to be like a completely different reading of that scene. That's awesome.
And if only Superman 2 then immediately cut to a rock song about Superman.
Yeah, how cool is it that you've now joined the annals of movies that have credit songs about the movie?
That was a really crazy thing to happen, because I mean, and not just that, but I mean, it was just it was done in such the spirit of the film to have it be Nikki Sixx, the Motley Crue to co-write or write it.
Yeah,
and, that
I couldn't sleep for days on that. That was like there's those traditions from the 80s and 90s and that I just miss and love so much. And yeah, the theme song and because it was so funny too, because it was like the action-y movies, but then it would also be like just your kind of run-of-the-mill comedies too. I like Secret of My Success had it, and like
totally
Back to School
had an
had it.
Oscar-winning song.
What's that?
So the Bodyguard had an Oscar.
No, I mean, it was so common, and it's so gone now. So yeah, to have that come back and have it be Motley Crue and all those great bands, and for the song to be as good as it is too. We got to hear it as a demo, and we were just, it was just unbelievable, unreal.
I'm not even saying this to kiss ass. That has had so much play on my Spotify account the past couple of days.
Right.
I love it.
That's
I love
really
it.
Cool, man. Yeah.
It gets stuck in your head. Like I don't know why. It just reminds me of Dream Warriors. Like it just has like that spoken kind of sound to it. So good.
You're like, you don't even know. Like we're such Dream Warriors fans, and like I have on my, you got to see the setup we have here.
If we had the camera, we could show. I've been looking at the VHS. Like, my eyes have been wandering over to it.
And I have the Dream Warriors soundtrack vinyl up on the wall here. So it's
Yeah, Mike and I are such huge fans of the rock and roll horror film. Like, Shocker gets a lot of play in our respective homes.
Hell yeah. Love Shocker.
I think I watched Shocker.
That's a hard soundtrack to find, by the way. It's a very hard one to find.
Impossible. Almost impossible. Yeah. It's such a shame. Like, I really actually have almost bought just the cassettes, which is really all you can find at this point.
Yeah. It's very hard to find.
1,000 times. There's like no... I mean, that's the only place the Dudes of Wrath ever appeared. So it's there's no way to find their music. That God, the Shocker theme gets a lot of play as well. I listen to that song constantly.
Well, and I love the Megadeth cover of the Alice Cooper is phenomenal. I think
it's
so
superior.
Good. I do too. You know what? I appreciate you having the guts to say that out loud, because I have always thought that, and I'm like, man, that's just one of those things. Like, I know I would get crucified for, but it is better.
Mustaine's voice just fits that song so well.
It does.
It's like the Alice Cooper version is a classic, but it feels very tongue-in-cheek. Megadeth's version makes you think, wait, what did this guy do?
Yeah. Yeah.
I love it. The tagline is "No more Mr. Nice Guy."
For Shocker. Yeah.
And God, and the trailer is the only place you can actually hear Mitch Pileggi say the line, because he possesses somebody in the movie, then says "No more Mr. Nice Guy," so it completely screws up its own tagline.
Yeah,
just makes it funnier to me. What, Jamie? Can we just do a Shocker commentary at some point?
Oh, absolutely. Nothing would ever make me happy.
Only if you include the Gear brothers. Come on, we got to be there.
Oh, please come on and do a commentary with us for Shocker and Dream Warriors.
Hell yeah.
We would absolutely love that. We're dead serious.
Yeah, nothing in the world would make me happier for this show than if we could get indie horror people on and just have them talk about their favorite schlock. Just what's your favorite VHS horror?
Oh yeah, with us, you have to get us to shut up. So we that's all we talk about. So
yeah. I was listening to a podcast with you guys earlier today where you briefly nerded out over Silver Bullet, and I was like, okay, these are our people.
Yes. Oh yeah, love Silver Bullet.
Silver Bullet is so underrated. I hate when it's always underrated. Like that Stephen King conversation. It's so damn good.
It's so good. It's so good. Well, that has, and that movie like really scared the shit out of me as a kid. Like, anytime kids got killed in movies, we've talked about this a bunch. Yeah. That's something you don't ever see anymore. Little kids never ever get killed in movies.
Was Gator the one that fucked you up?
Gator was Alligator.
Sorry. Yes, I was just thinking that. Yeah, the pirate kit, the Halloween kids in the pirate costumes.
The pirate costume in the pool. That was the first one I ever saw, and it completely fucked me up.
Yeah.
Obviously, Jaws.
Jaws is a tough one.
But
more recently, I got wigged out watching Caliber.
That movie goes for it. Yeah. That movie goes. There's a few that go for it, and it is always hard. It's just there's something super crazy about it. But I remember first time I saw Silver Bullet, the blood on the kite and all that. It's just like, it's so good. And Corey, gotta love Corey. My favorite movie of all time is The Lost Boys. I'm obsessed. That's my all time favorite. And so Corey Haim is just, it's near dear to my heart.
Yeah, I get a little irate whenever I do hear some horror fans talk about it positively, but it's in the tone of, oh yeah, it's like one of those crazy schlocky Stephen King movies that's like fun to laugh at. It's like Silver Bullet is terrifying in moments.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and the fact that you got having the lead character in a wheelchair is such a brilliant. I mean, it's because he's so you're at such a, frankly, just at such a disadvantage when you have a freaking beast after you, and so it's just that's that brilliant drama. Like, it just creates an immediate sympathy. Sympathy, but also just sympathy for the situation.
Danger.
Because you're just like, fuck.
Dangers increased and sympathy.
It's brilliant.
He's so vulnerable. That's why the scariest scene in Silver Bullet to me is in the covered bridge, and he's not even a werewolf in it.
Yes. So good. Yeah. But see, and this is the thing, is like when you start we've gotten into these deep conversations about quality and what is actually good and what is actually bad. I love Maximum Overdrive. So, I mean, I'm, and that movie's rough.
Whoa, did you not see the trailer? Stephen King explicitly said he was going to scare the hell out of you.
Listen, that is a fun fucking movie. It's not Citizen Kane. It's not supposed to be. It's just fun. That's one that gets so much hate, and I don't understand. I just don't understand the vitriol for it. I'm like, what?
Yeah, no, it definitely doesn't deserve all the hate. That's for sure.
I love watching Maximum Overdrive, but from the aspect of thinking about what is going through Stephen King's mind as he's directing each scene.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Was he? In
Well, and also,
was
what
he
a-
like in a haze of?
He was
cocaine addiction?
definitely in a
Yes.
he was at his alcoholic cokiest for sure.
Yeah.
There's no question. Because it is so surprising when you go, he's only directed one of. I mean, who's
crazy.
got a more prolific fucking cinematic catalog? There's nobody.
Well, Tom Clancy, maybe.
No, doesn't even touch it. And so you go, and the one he picks is fucking Maximum Overdrive.
That's such a weird one to pick, right?
But it's again going back to our shocker and our rock thing. It's you got the AC/DC element is just so great.
Just smashing shit up.
Yeah,
it is pretty fun.
Oh, Maximum Overdrive will forever exist as the thing that gifted us one of AC/DC's greatest songs, and it's Maximum Overdrive.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
I once heard someone tell a story about attending an Alamo Drafthouse screening of Maximum Overdrive that had Frank Darabont in the audience.
Oh,
and they showed the trailer beforehand where Stephen King says, if you want something done right, you gotta do it yourself. And someone in the audience piped up with, what do you think of that, Frank? And he stood up and said, fuck you! And then sat back down.
That is great.
Oh, that's
so
hilarious. Good. That is awesome.
Well, damn. We got to get you guys back on just to talk about stuff like this. This is
for sure.
That's great.
For sure.
Definitely for those commentaries, at least. That'd be great. Or apparently Maximum Overdrive. I want to get deep in the text of Maximum Overdrive.
Yeah, I'm down to get down and dirty.
Yeah, let's get fucking down and dirty, dude. I'm all of it. That's what I'm saying.
Down, dirty, and coked up.
Yeah, that's the only way to do it. Just cover yourself in cocaine.
Metaphorically speaking, cinematically coked up.
Yeah. We'll drink a lot of Coca-Cola before we get this thing party started.
This is a series of bad decisions that just ends with us recording a commentary for Sleepwalkers.
Oh no, we've gone too far.
Well, we've gone too far to Sleepwalkers territory. No, man.
The Sleepwalkers are definitely the Langoliers. That would be the furthest reaches of hell.
Okay, are we going? We're going full Bronson Pinchot. I mean, if we're going there,
we're going to Mr. Toomey.
Okay, well, listen, if we're going, the siege. We should do Langoliers.
Dude, Langoliers.
I haven't seen that in so long.
Yeah, we have to do some substance before Langoliers. No, I'm just kidding. No, but yeah, the Langoliers that's out there, man.
What's so funny is go ahead.
I was going to say, did you guys know that somebody remade that into an art film?
No.
That's like stop motion and shit. They printed out every frame of the movie onto paper and then tore the paper to make it stop like animated. That is the most brilliant thing I've ever heard.
Oh, dude, that's a really cool idea. I love that.
Well, it is a brilliant idea because it is visually, it's like the worst CGI of all time, right?
Yeah,
like basically it's made for TV CGI. It's early 90s.
Had everything going
CGI,
against it.
Yeah, everything.
Yeah, because I remember seeing that as a really little kid, and even then, I was growing up in the 90s thinking, like, what? Like, this looks awful.
Well, what was funny was
I was not buying it even at, like, 8 years old.
I read that book. That was Nightmares and Dreamscapes, right? Was that what it was? No, it was 3 Past Midnight. What the hell was it?
Yeah, I believe it was 3 Past Midnight. It was one of the novella collections.
One of his short stories. I read that. I was young. And I loved it. I love the Langoliers.
It's a great idea. I mean, it's a great
short story.
Yeah,
but oh boy, did it! It did not.
I didn't to be 6 hours long.
It was ahead of it. Look, it was ahead of its time. The technology had not been made yet.
Yeah.
This was Stephen King.
I would love to. We should do a show where we make a case for it, though. I'd like to see. Let's watch it and try to make a case.
Yeah. Absolutely.
We got to find its the redeeming values. We do that for fun. We will literally find movies that are the absolute worst reviewed and go, okay, let's watch it. Let's see if we can find anything in it.
Can we please throw a Kirk Cameron in there? Let's go Fireproof.
No. We're going Fireproof. No. If we're going Saving Christmas, I don't know.
I do have to admit, whenever I was watching Retaliators, I was reminded of that Pure Flix Taken knockoff that David A.R. White made, where it's like, they push a priest too far. Like, oh, this is like the good version of that.
Hey, I'll take that as a compliment.
Yeah, I definitely take that as a compliment.
We love those movies. Man.
Yeah.
There's just something very charmingly bad about it. That it starts becoming like I just love it. It gets to a point where I go, I don't like saying it's bad anymore.
Well, that's the problem with us is we like bad movies so much and we watch them so much that the lines have all been blurred. So at this point,
because we'll quote them to each other like constantly. Jack Frost 2 lines are all in there.
Have you guys ever seen Howling 7?
No,
I haven't.
Oh man,
I didn't realize they got that far.
This might look. I don't want to hype it up too much, but it was life changing.
No, there's no reason to hype it. No, listen.
I found out some things about myself after watching it.
This is a level of bad that is up. I mean, it's bad on so many levels, and it's so unwatchable, and so it's trying to be funny the whole time, and it's not funny. It's the worst kills of all time. Yeah, literally the worst CGI ever put on film.
Oh my gosh! Yeah,
worst acting you ever saw. But there is something so inept. It's one of those where you're just you can't take your eyes off of it. But it really is hard to describe how bad it is. It has a bit of a notorious past. It was made, and whoever financed it shelved it and said, we're not putting this out. And
because they said we asked
it's unreleasable.
We asked you to make a horror film in the Howling lineage,
right?
And it's not a horror film.
It's not a horror film. It's not.
I mean, it has some things.
There's no werewolf in the fucking movie.
I mean, I could see the director, Mike Turner, going like, no, it's got some horror in it, but it really doesn't.
No, there's weird line dancing scenes in it. Like I can't. I won't give it away. But listen, it is so fucking bad. And so the studio, whoever paid for it, said we're not fucking releasing this. And so they didn't release it on any platform. And then somehow it got to when Joe Bob was on Monster Vision, he aired it one time. So it didn't exist anywhere. And he aired it and did commentary. And then people clamored for it and said, holy shit, I want to own this movie. And so because of him airing it, they ended up releasing it, and the title changes multiple. Actually, I don't even think it's called Howling 7. It's called Howling New Moon Rising, right?
Yeah, there was another one too. I could have sworn I saw.
Yeah,
it's.
But oh boy, it is.
So it's like New Moon Rising or Blood Moon Rising.
I don't know. Shit like that. But the reason I say don't hype it is because I don't know the level of bad you guys like. Because if
that's true.
It could be too bad for you for sure. Because it's definitely not for everybody. It's not for everybody. It's bad.
Considering some of the Slender Man movies Mike and I have watched together, that's nothing.
It's gas station sushi, all right? It's like, if you like it, you love it. Okay?
Yeah. It's one to watch with a group. It's one to watch together. You wouldn't want to watch it alone.
No.
You watch it with each other if you can. And it's a full boy. We've watched it many times now, but it's pure train wreck.
Well, we'll watch it with like our entire family. We'll get the whole family together for like days. We're just popping on, and we're all doing the sing-alongs.
Yeah, there's sing-alongs that it's so bad, you guys.
I love the two movies that Joe Bob saved from obscurity are Basket Case and Howling 7.
Yeah.
Well, also Hogzilla to a degree.
Hogzilla.
Well, I mean, Joe Bob is just the man beyond.
Oh yeah, we're all huge fans on this podcast.
He is our god.
Monster Vision was a big part of my childhood.
He's like the Pope of exploitation. You know what I mean?
We named a character after him
in the Retaliator.
So Captain Briggs,
Bobby Burke's.
If you watch the Briggs scene next, imagine Joe Bob saying everything he's saying. That's written. for his voice. That was completely written for his voice.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
playing his character from The Stand.
Yeah. And so he ended up doing this like radio show where he hosted this thing for the Retaliators. And so he ended up he did a blood count, like we got the body count and the breast count.
Oh, Dream.
Troll. He was all,
He was like,
was it motorcycle food?
Yeah, motorcycle food. He did the whole fucking thing.
What was the gratuitous one? He had what was gratuitous?
He said gratuitous voiceover.
Yeah, gratuitous voiceover.
Gratuitous. It was gratuitous. It totally fucking was. But he did, and then he gave us a quote, and it's like off the charts, so cool about the film.
That was one of those moments where it was like, wait, what?
Oh yeah, we went and saw his
even more than the movie theaters and everything like that.
Have you guys seen his live show?
No, I haven't gotten a chance to go.
Yeah, our other co-host Cody says that was like life-changing.
I can't even tell you how amazing.
What do you do? The Hillbillies Save Hollywood.
What it feels like? It feels like you are in the best of ways. It feels like you're in a college class in an auditorium with the professor of fucking exploitation,
the
cinema,
professor,
the rock star professor, and you just learn an unbelievable amount. He just takes you through the genealogy and lineage of so many things, and behind him clips are playing, and it really is like we were just like looking at each other going, holy shit, this is fucking unreal. Like, it is so damn good. I could not recommend it enough. It was amazing. Like, you just walk out truly like...
And the meet and greet was really chill.
Yeah.
Like, and he couldn't have been sweeter.
He was such a sweet guy.
Darcy.
Him and Darcy were there. Yeah. It was truly amazing.
I just realized Joe Bob said in the last drive-in marathon that Pieces was perhaps the only horror movie ever made where heads roll before the credits roll, and I think you guys made number 2.
Oh, shit! No way! Yeah, no, we do have
that. Oh, shit, I think we do. Rolling, yeah, you're right. Yeah. We've got a head rolling pretty quickly there. Yeah.
I feel like we can get Joe Bob to, like, officially declare that if we ask him.
Well, we can't do it. That wouldn't be right. If you guys can do it,
we will bring it up. Yes,
we'll use our
pester him on social media.
No, I'm totally writing Joe Bob tonight.
Oh man, I'm like hearing that Joe Bob story. Like, I'm so happy for you guys. Like, total win all around with this movie.
Thanks, you. Man. Thanks, guys.
No, thank you. And
love your insights into it and all the nuances and everything. It's very, very cool to hear.
And just thank you for providing it to us. And just thank you for coming on. It was awesome talking to you. We'd love to have you back anytime.
Same here. Same here. We'd love to be back. You guys are awesome, and we're down to talk flicks anytime.
Cool. Retaliators is, of course, out now on VOD. You can pre-order it out on February 7th on Blu-ray. I'm glad you guys got the cool-ass poster art as the cover.
Yeah.
Very happy to see that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So go ahead and check that out. As for me, as for Jamie, as for the Gear Brothers, in this episode of Box Office Pulp, get the hell out of here.
And like that, he's gone.
This is Box Office Pulp Guy, and this has been a Pulp Podcast production. Now please, 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 put a gun in my mouth and pull the trigger and say goodnight.
And now, on with the show.